Hey to all of you wonderful viewers out there. Hi, I'm Awesome Joe, and thank you guys so much for taking in the time of your day to watching another episode of Awesome Joe's Play Back-to-Back Movie Reviews. And 2022 has been already a great start. That we go ahead and start off this happy new year with Scream 2022. With the passing of Wes Craven back in August of 2015, which felt it was just like yesterday, but here we are. He directed 4 really great Scream movies, and here we are going off with Scream 5, which of course they could have called it 5 Cream, or Scream 5, or just Scream 2022. I'm going to call it Scream 2022 just to avoid confusion with the original film of the first Scream movie. So this one is going to be giving us the director of Matt Bellini and Tyler Gillett, which are the people that brought us the movie Ready or Not. And that was a movie I did not get to watch. I was excited at getting to go and watching it, but I never got the chance to, and I still haven't watched it yet. But after having to watching this movie, it really does inspire me to go off and watching the movie for myself once more again. So this movie is pretty much a story that it's starting up very differently, giving us new characters, new leading characters, and a new storyline, which is still involving itself in the Scream world, bringing us back the legendary characters. But as of now, we're going to talk about these new characters, which is the new Sidney Prescott of these new Scream movie or movies, but according to this movie itself alone, Sam Carpenter, which is played by Melissa Barrera. And her name Carpenter, of course, is very obvious where it came from, leading back to John Carpenter, the person who brought us back the original Halloween. And this character is more of the Jill character from the last film in Scream 4. She is a complete opposite of this character, because the Jill character in Scream 4 was someone who wanted the mantle passed over to her, to being the new leading role in this whole Scream world, getting the fame and fortune, the noticeability, and luckily, of course, according to that movie, she didn't get her happy ending. But this one is now saying, okay, just like in a way of Terminator or Ghostbusters or even Star Wars, all these other different kinds, Spider-Man, Matrix, they are what they call this new kind of word that I am not really familiar with, nor have I ever heard of before until this movie, which is a requel, which is a set of movies that, like the sequels to the original film didn't really cut out. So instead of rebooting the entire thing starting from scratch, why don't they go ahead and continue on the story, but as a refreshment as well, which is combining reboot and sequel together, continuing the storyline, but with fresh new blood. So that's what a requel is. And I was actually curious and asking myself as to if they were to be making another Scream movie, what would they touch bases on? Since I don't really know what they could do after a story about rebooting a franchise. You got the first film, which is the original, then you get the second film, which is based off a sequel, then you get the third one that is a conclusion to the trilogy, then the fourth one involving reboots. So I'm thinking, what could they do with the fifth movie? So that's when they introduced us to this new word, requel. So, and I liked it. I really did, because now that I'm thinking about it, of course, that's what Hollywood is doing nowadays. Especially since Scream is very, very related to what Halloween has been putting themselves through. So they really take that source material from Halloween, and they even throw it in this movie as well, to a reference to it, stating on how Scream is so much just like Halloween. So, and this is what Scream 5, the Scream 2022, is bringing to us now. You get a new fresh take, but with the returning characters, rebooting, but yet a continuation of the storyline. So, and I love that. I love what they do there. Now, the big question is, if they were to do a Scream 6, if this movie is successful enough, financially and box office-wise, and critically, if they were to do a Scream 6, what would the main story be all about then? So that's what really catches my attention, and figuring out what in the world of Hollywood are they coming up with next. And it's not a big, and I want to go ahead and throw this out here as well too, that my videos, they contain spoilers. Like I said, I don't really have a lot of time to be discussing non-spoiler reviews and spoiler reviews. If you haven't gone out to watching the movie just yet, even though I don't want you to, but stop this video, go to your local theater, check it out, and then come back and become part of the awesome conversation that we have here today. But other than that, spoilers are ahead. I cannot hold my tongue. There's always so much that I want to talk about in relations to the movies that I want to talk about. So here we go. It's not a big surprise as to how this movie was going to turn itself off to being, because really it's always that scratching your head while watching the movie, asking yourself, who was the one who did it? Who is Ghostface this time? And for one of the secrets of this movie, because based off of the marketing that they give us of this film, it's relating towards the suspects, everybody that is actually a relative of the original legendary cast. And so when it comes to this character, Sam Carpenter, it reveals in the movie that she is Billy Loomis's daughter, and which was actually a little surprising for me. But when it was leading itself to it, right away I was putting piece together, figuring out as to where they were leading it towards. And what was so great about it is that not only is her character Billy Loomis's daughter, but actually Billy Loomis comes back. That is freaking awesome. Skeet Ulrich, who is the original killer from the first Scream movie, comes back. And I love the de-aging that they do with him. He's an hallucination that the Sam character illuminates. She discovered this long-term secret way earlier when she was a younger person, and she ran away and tried to avoid herself becoming that psycho killer that her father truly was. So I actually like that storyline. And then when it comes to this new Ghostface, knows the secret and is doing and using it as a tool to lure not only just our new characters into play, but even the legendary characters, which is just phenomenal. So the beginning of the movie, of course, we always get our beginning kill, and this is this character Tara Carpenter, which is the sister to Sam. And she's the beginning kill of the film, which of course every Scream movie has to have. And it's really weird to say that she's still alive. She doesn't get killed off, even though it looks like it. And the kills in this movie are brutal. They are so brutal. It is really hardcore R, something that I haven't seen a lot in a Scream movie, or even in any slasher flicks. I mean, this one really kicks it off. Very brutal. I couldn't believe it. It was very it brought me into realization. I felt really pulled into the film. There was a lot of horror and suspense going on into this movie that really captured my attention and kept me very well entertained from beginning to end of the film. But yes, Tara is still alive, and which of course leads all of our characters to come into play of Ghostface's game. And there's this really cool hospital scene where Ghostface does try to come back and try to kill off Tara once and for all. Really great hospital scene. I think that's my favorite scene out of the entire film. But like I said, the kills are just spectacular. They're brutal. I mean, it's just hardcore, next level R-rated stuff. So I really was fascinated by the entire movie. Then there's this character, Richie, which happens to be Sam's boyfriend in this movie, played by Jack Quaid. And we all know who Jack Quaid is. He's in Amazon's series, The Boys, and he is son to Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. And you could just see it off of his face right away. He looks like the killer. He looks like he could be either the killer or one of the killers, because I just take a good look at him and right away I'm thinking, this guy has got to be at least the killer or one of the killers. he just looks too suspicious. But throughout the entire movie, it really throws off of saying that, you know, you're actually convinced that this guy probably isn't the killer, because there's just a lot of clues and hints thrown out there pushing us away from who this guy really is and where he comes from. So, because that's actually one of the first questions when he's introduced into the story is, who is he? How long have you known him? Does he have any motives? Does he know your secrets? This and that. And right away it's like, yeah. Because like our legendary characters, they've experienced this throughout the majority of their entire lives, going through this so many times that they know the rules, they know what to suspect, they know what's coming to them when these certain situations come to hand. So I really did like that. And there's this other character named Vince, which is played by Kyle Gallner, and he was marketed into this movie looking like as if he was the son of Billy Loomis, because he looks very suspicious, very creepy, very scary, and he just turns out to be a total a-hole during his time in the film, which is not even that long. If anything, he is in this movie less than 3 minutes. He gets killed. He gets introduced very quickly. He gets killed very quickly, but actually happens to be revealed as Stu's nephew, which is one of the killers from the original movie. And the way that he gets killed is right outside a bar in a parking lot with Right Red Hand playing in the background. I love that song. It's a really great part of the Scream franchise, and I love that it is part of it and a part of this film, and including part of this killing. So it was really cool. Then there's a whole bunch of new characters. I'm gonna name them off really quickly. We got Amber, that's played by Mickey Madison, and she lives in Stu's home, and we are brought back into Stu's home as a reference to what we had experienced in the original film. A lot of references towards the first film. There are some references into some of the other Scream movies, but most importantly the first one, and with good reason too. And so she's very interested into the stab movies. She loves the stab movies, no matter if they're good or terrible. It doesn't matter. And she happens to be Tara's friend, which is actually one of the reasons as to what brought Tara into the whole equation of all of this. So it was really great getting to see that. Then we get Wes Hicks, which is played by Dylan Minnette, and the way that his character is actually named after Wes Craven's Remembrance. So that was great, and I love the character, really great. He has a little of a psycho shower reference into the movie as well too, during a killing scene. And I love the suspense behind the doors. They do it so many times, keeping us jiggling at the edge of our seats, wondering where's Ghostface at and when is he going to pop up and do the killing off of this character, which of course does happen. And while doing all that, he's actually the son to Deputy Judy Hicks, which is returning Marley Shelton that we know from the fourth Scream movie, which, by the way, I gotta mention, I'm glad that Scream 5 does not have the same visuality that Scream 4 did, with the whole red smidged glaring look. I really didn't like that. That really threw me off, and I knew that Wes Craven was what he was doing was trying to reinvent the franchise, giving us a new perspective as to how this world was taking itself to a whole other direction. So I understood what he was doing, but I didn't really like that, and I'm glad that they didn't bring it back. So that part within its own film is okay with me, just as long as they didn't do a continuation off of it. So that was great too. And I love how all these characters, they continue to point fingers at each other and letting each other know that, you know, anybody could be the killer, could be you, and it could even be me. And they're very cautious throughout this movie. They're telling each other, you know what, I've seen all those scary movies. I know what to do in a certain situation. And if you're inviting me to go somewhere off by myself alone with you, or by myself altogether, that's a problem, and that's a big no-no. I do not want to put myself in that position, which is what these characters do throughout the majority of this movie, and it's a fun tactic because we do get a lot of that in the Halloween movies too, with Michael Myers. So it's always fun. It brings the comedy to the movie. It keeps us. It's another piece of entertainment on having to enjoy this movie, which it for me successfully did. Then we get Chad Meeks and Mindy Meeks, which is played by Mason Gooding, which is the son of Cuba Gooding Jr. Great getting to see him. And Jasmine Savory Brown. They're both twins, brother and sister, and they happen to be niece and nephews to the Randy character, Jamie Kennedy's character, from the original Scream movie. So great getting to seeing them there. And I love on how Mindy, she's very much more like Randy, having to be the movie expert, revealing the newly-word requel to the Scream franchise. I love this basement test that she does with Amber, letting them know, do you think it's really a good idea to do this, and that, going down in the basement by yourself in pitch black dark? Not a good idea. And I love on how, there's this phone tracking thing that leads Chad into this killing scene that actually, by the way, even though it shows that he gets killed, he's actually still alive, and it's a great reveal towards the end to where we probably will be getting to seeing more of him in the, if there were to be more Scream sequels. So I think that our new trinity of Scream characters is probably going to be Sam Carpenter and Chad and Mindy Meeks. So, because those are the ones that actually did survive, and including Tara Carpenter, her sister. So it's great getting to seeing all of them and knowing that this is our new Scream team, and we'll be seeing them in future films. And you never know, there's a possibility that one or two of them might die in the next film, if there will be one. Now on to the legendary characters. Of course, you cannot have a Scream movie without Sidney Prescott, which is, of course, returning Neve Campbell. She's now married with kids, and the majority of this movie, she's pretty much put on the sidelines in such ways that she was in Scream 3, because in Scream 3, she wasn't even intending on returning, but she came to the conclusion that she did, and which is why she's probably in the film for a good 40%. And this one, very, very downscale. I felt like her coming into the movie didn't really have any meaning other than the fact that she is a legendary character, and then she is a part of this story now. Which, if there's Ghostface, there's got to be Sidney Prescott. That's the reason why she's a part of this movie. I think that they should have given more meaning to the reason why she needed to be a part of this movie, rather than just being a legendary character, something that had to deal with her storyline. But I think that when it comes to everything that involved with her and her mother, was only involved with that the first trilogy of films, and then that was that. But it was great getting to see her once more again, going up against Ghostface, getting to fight against whoever the killers were, and being reunited with her trinity of characters from the recent Scream movies. You get Dooley Riley coming back, David Arquette. Right now, he is no longer the sheriff. He is divorced. He is retired, and he lives a very lonely life. He watches his ex-wife Gail Weathers, which is Courtney Cox, coming back here on a TV talk show in New York, which is the reason why these two divorced and split up. They're no longer together and they're married. And what brings these characters back to Woodsboro is, Dewey Riley is the first one that is introduced, one of the legendary characters introduced back into this movie, introduced along with the new set of characters. And I kind of had a Star Wars The Force Awakens vibe with this movie. I felt like Dewey Riley felt very Han Solo to me, because the majority of this movie does involve just him alone, not having to being involved with Sidney or Gale. So even though that there is a conversation, the final conversation between Dewey and Gale, I just find that Dewey was much more involved with this new cast, that it was kind of like a passing of the torch. And when it comes to that hospital scene, I'm going to say it, like I said, this video will contain spoilers, and here it is, that Dewey gets killed. I really did feel like it was coming, and it came. once when that hospital scene came up and said, I got Ghostface, but I forgot to shoot him in the head, and I have to go back and finish the job because it does matter something. And so he goes back, and while he was in the process of going to shoot the killer in the head, the killer revives himself and kills Dewey. And I just love on how, even though it's marketed in the trailers saying that Ghostface was telling Sidney that it is an honor, but actually it was referred to Dewey, and I just loved it. And I hate seeing Dewey gone. I hate that he got killed, but it had to happen. It had to give us more depth. It had to give us realization, and it did. I hate that we had to lose a legendary character, but there it is. And I'm sure that they're going to do the Star Wars vibe, because even though these three did not get to work alongside with each other in this movie like what Star Wars did, I have a feeling that if there's another Scream movie, I have a feeling that a legendary character will get killed off, either if it's going to be Sidney or Gale. So it'll be one of the two that I'm assuming would happen if they were to do the Star Wars route, because I felt like it was still Star Wars, and Sam felt very much like Rey from the sequel trilogy. You know, having to reveal that Rey is Emperor Palpatine's granddaughter. That's how I felt on how Sam was revealed to being Billy Loomis's daughter. So I feel like that's the toll that they're trying to do with these movies. Is, you know, a passing of the torch movie, which of course they reference that into this killing off one of the characters. So I thought that was pretty cool also too. And Marlee Shelton, like I mentioned earlier, is Deputy Judy Hicks, coming back, who is the mom of Wes, killed outside of her home during daylight, outside, never seen before in a Scream movie. And it was a great car chase going on, having to go into saving her son. So even though she gets killed off first, her son gets killed as well too. And with Dewey having to being retired as sheriff, she was sheriff now in this film. So it was great getting to see her back, but I felt like her getting killed off was like cutting off a loose end to Scream 4, knowing that she lived throughout that movie and now coming back just to get killed off. Kind of felt like that old lady nurse from Halloween in Halloween Kills. You know, she's only in Halloween for a specific amount of time, but is known as a legendary character. Comes back in Halloween Kills just to only get killed off. That sucks. And then we get Martha Meeks, who is coming back, Heather Matarazzo, which is, of course, the mother to Chad and Mindy, and sister to Randy, that came up in Scream 3 for a very minimal amount of time. So it was great getting to see her again, calling her a legendary character coming back from the original trilogy. And really great knowing that Roger L. Jackson, who does the voice of Ghostface in Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, and now this one as well too, getting to see, actually hearing his voice once more again, knowing that every killer in these movies are always a different character. The voice of Ghostface is the character Ghostface, so I would like to call Roger L. Jackson just Ghostface altogether. His voice is just spectacular, and having the knowing that it is a part of this movie is just phenomenal. His voice is always just so eerie and suspicious and horror graphic, and the way that the movie starts, when you hear his voice for the first time over the phone, it sounds like a completely different person. It sounds like a typical normal guy, but it's still his voice. And then throughout time, during that phone call, the voice tends to change itself, going into the actual Ghostface voice that we all know and remember and admire so much from these Scream movies. So, the motive that is given to us when we get the big reveal as to who the killers are, which is, of course, Richie and Amber. Like I said, spoilers here, so I gave you guys a warning, alright? So it's Richie and Amber. Amber, because she's so obsessed with the Stab movies and she lives in Stu's home, gives her the motivation of knowing that all of the other Stab sequels were complete garbage, and they want a good Stab movie this time. So in order to do that, they had to motivate, since the original Stab was based on true events, so this one, they try to do the same thing. They try to replicate that. and which also brings Richie into the mix. Richie, throughout the entire movie, says, "I've never seen one stab movie, nor am I familiar with the rules or as to how the story goes or takes itself to." But throughout the entire movie, he knew the entire time what to do and how it's done and who to suspect, so on and so forth. But like I said, he was one of my main suspects, the one that I felt like was leaning itself towards as being the actual killer in this movie, and having the knowing that it is once there is a true reveal. I don't know. For me, I think that this movie, I think that the motivation was just a little too weak for me. I felt like it was good. Don't get me wrong, but I just felt like it needed more depth. It needed something that was a very meaning to the Sam Carpenter character, to the reason why she is Billy Loomis's daughter. You know, just like what Billy Loomis had intended, what his motivation was in the first Scream movie. It was very personal to Sidney Prescott's character. So I was kind of hoping that there would be more depth, other than the fact that, oh, the stab movie sucked. We want a really good stab movie. In order for us to do that, we have to go out there and do a massacre story based on true events of us killing people. I don't know. I mean, I could understand and I could say that, yes, like I said, it was good, but it didn't work for me. It didn't. I wanted more something connected to the character, the main character, to Sam's character, to say this is actually something that has nothing to do with Sidney Prescott anymore. It has to do now with the Sam character, which is the main character now of these Scream movies. So that's what I wanted. It didn't happen, but I still liked it. It was good. And one of my anticipations, hoping that this movie would have had, was that we would not have gotten a reveal in this movie. That it would have been a final fight against Ghostface, but not get a reveal as to who it was. And instead, continue on the story, having its own story within this movie alone solo, but having a continuation furthering itself, saying there's more to it than what we have here in this film alone. There's more to it. And that it would be a cutoff and giving us an open door for more sequels. That's what I was kind of hoping, giving us a bridge to a new trilogy, but it didn't happen. And so once we get our reveal of the killers and we have this final fight and the bad guys get killed off and everybody goes to the hospital and there's happily ever after, I was kind of hoping maybe there would be an end credits scene possibly of Sidney getting a phone call, or Sam saying, and Ghostface is on the phone saying, "Hey, I love the job that you did. You know, great to know that those guys were the killers, this and that, but you got the wrong people. You've been talking to me the entire time, and unfortunately, these are not the killers. I'm still alive, and I'm still out there, and I'm coming for you." You know, something like that. I think something like that would have been really great. Like I said, an open bridge, an open door to a new line of trilogy films. So that's what I was hoping. It didn't happen. Did it disappoint me? A little bit, but I still love the film. It was still very entertaining. I still had a good time. Rotten Tomatoes went ahead and gave this movie a 76%. But before I went ahead and found out that percentage, I gave it my own rating and found out that it's not as different as I felt what Rotten Tomatoes gave it, because I went ahead and gave the movie a 75%. 75% is the movie I give the movie. Is the percentage that I give the movie. I did love it. I really did love it, and I'm really very much looking forward to another Scream movie. Now, box office wise, I do have a feeling that it will not make as much money as anticipated, but I really do believe critically it is a good movie. It is a good movie, and I'm really hoping that there will be another Scream movie, not having to wait another 10 years for another one to come up, but possibly maybe 3 to 5, half of that time. So that's my review for Scream 2022, Scream 5, Scream, whatever the hell you want to call it. What did you guys think? Please let me know what you guys think after having to watching this film. Be a part of the awesome conversation. I'm Awesome Joe. If you guys love this video and you want to check out some more of them, just look them up on Facebook and on YouTube at Awesome Joe Movie Reviews. Don't forget to click on that like and subscribe button there, you guys. I really do appreciate everyone having and supporting my channel. And if you have any questions, comments, complaints, or concerns, please feel free to leave it down in the comment section in the bottom, and let's have an awesome time talking about this movie or any movies that you like to talk about in general, because I love to talk about movies, but most importantly, I love to talk about them with you. So once more again, I am Awesome Joe. Keep on living the dream, and as always, stay awesome. Thanks you guys once more again, and I'll see everyone in the next video, for which I will be working on the Peacemaker HBO Max series, the first 3 episodes, that came out a few days ago, and having to talk about the first 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett now on Disney+. So stay tuned. I'll see everybody in the next video. Bye. Thank you.